And of all the games that I'm going over with you here today, this is probably the one that I'm most likely to back. This one is a card battler, but I think it's doing a lot of things different. And I absolutely love the artwork for this one, and it is also going to be offered at a very reasonable price. But like I said, this game's doing a lot of things different, and I'm really impressed with the different mechanisms that this game has to offer, because at the start of this game, each player is going to be drawing 10 cards from a deck. Then each player is going to be using those cards to try and defeat the other players. These cards can just grant you with some special effects or one-time use abilities, but most of these cards are going to be fighter cards, and each fighter is going to have stats for their attack power, their health, and their defense. But something that is really cool about this game is that not only will you be getting a whole bunch of these fighter cards, but you'll also be getting these different stat cards that you can actually add to your fighters in order to augment their stats. The strike cards are going to increase your attack power, the health is going to increase your health, and the shield is going to increase your defense. And you can assign one of each of these to any fighter that you like, making them a lot more powerful. But what's also cool about this game is that each player is going to have 2 rows of fighters in front of them, and at the beginning of the game you're just going to be putting your cards out into the front row, and it's the front row that you're going to be attacking from, because every time it's your turn you get to activate every single one of your fighters in the front row, issuing attacks on whatever other fighters that you want from your opponents. But the back row is also super important, but for very different reasons, because the back row is the only location that you can freely add and remove cards to and from your hand, and it's also the only place where you can add additional upgrade cards to the fighters. And also, anytime that a card comes into the back row, it is also completely healed. Moving your cards between the front and the back row isn't super easy, but there are a few ways to do it. The first is just by playing any associated action cards that allow you to swap cards or move cards forward or backwards. But then the other way is once all the cards in your front row are defeated, your back row is automatically going to be moving forward. This is going to be opening up the back row, allowing you to put any new cards from your hand into that row, preparing yourself as best as you can for the future, because if all the cards in your front row are defeated and you have no cards in the back row to take their place, then you automatically lose the game. But another cool aspect of your fighters is that each of them is categorized into a particular type of fighter, and this is going to be indicated by the icon in the bottom left corner of the card. This comes into play when you're putting your fighters out into battle, and if you're ever able to get 3 of the same icons in the front row, then you're going to be forming something called a warband, which is going to be giving some massive upgrades to those fighters. One of these icons does also act like a wild, making it a little bit easier to form a warband with that card. But the cards that do have the wild icon are also normally a little bit weaker, and of course your warband's effects are going to run out if any of those cards are defeated and you no longer have 3 matching icons in your front row. On a player's turn, they'll be able to draw 3 new cards into their hand, and then they'll be able to activate each of the cards in their front row. Whenever you do this, you're going to be choosing which cards you want to attack, and the way that attacking an opponent's card works in this game is that you're just going to be comparing your card's strength to your opponent's card's defense, and if your card's strength is higher than their defense value, then it's a guaranteed hit, and you're going to be doing the associated amount of damage. But if your strength is not higher than their defense, then you're each going to be rolling a 10-sided die, and then adding your values to your strength, but then they're going to be adding their value to their defense. You're then going to be comparing these values to determine whether or not you have a hit or miss, but players will also be rolling critical successes or critical failures if they're able to roll a 0 or a 1 respectively. In the case of a tie, it's always one side that wins, but I don't remember whether it's the attacker or the defender because I did read that, but I forgot to write it down. But if you are the attacking player and you don't want to risk the success of your attack on the roll of a die, you can also combine multiple of your frontline cards together, combining their stats hopefully high enough to get your strength above the defense and guarantee that hit. Which also does come at the cost of not being able to perform as many attacks on your turn, since you combined multiple cards into a single attack, which is awesome because it provides multiple options to the player, each with their own trade-offs, which is always something that I love to see in games, and I think makes those decisions a lot of fun. I really do like what I'm seeing with the design on this one, and I love the artwork as well, so I'll definitely be following along with this one, probably backing it, and if this one looks interesting to you as well, you can find links to the campaign in the description below.